Reawaken to your immortal identity and discover life between life's wisdom. Presented by the Michael Newton Institute.
What you just said is very true, Will. When you said being okay or being comfortable in an uncomfortable situation, this is very powerful, what you just said, because it shows that the need to constantly judge ourselves, which we tend to sometimes do, is something that you're quite aware of. So you're okay, as you just said, you're okay being in that for a bit, and it's okay. You're not going ahead and judging yourself or probably even judging everyone around you at that time, and making that possibly bigger than what it is at the moment. It's a moment, as you just said, with children, especially with you have young children, you have twins, and the boys are at that age where every day is a new day. So as you said, you have a heavy day at work, you're coming probably just tired, you're simply exhausted, and then something can trigger. And it can happen to all of us, it does trigger us. But if you are okay accepting that, that means at that very moment, you took that choice where you aren't reacting, but you're getting into a realm of response. You're like, it's okay, this has happened, I can deal with this. And you don't allow it to escalate. And this ability to step back, this ability to be disassociative at that moment actually comes from that awareness or that wisdom that kicks in, because you're allowing yourself to see that I'm more than this situation, or I am not this situation. I'm not this individual who's at this moment feeling maybe depleted or tired or triggered or frustrated or any of those emotions. So it's a lot like, I am not my emotions. You're not tying yourself, or you're not identifying yourself with that emotion. And that, when you carry that kind of an awareness into your home life, in your personal space, or even at your workspace, it's very powerful. Just the sheer knowledge is very powerful. And if you're practicing it, are you seeing a difference in the way you probably appear to people? I'm sure you're seeing that. I'm sure people are probably seeing that in you, or you're seeing that in yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to get a balanced view on that, but I would hope so. I would hope so. It doesn't always, it's not. Again, it's not something that's a fix, so to speak. But I'm noticing it. a process, exactly. I'm noticing it enough that there's this self-awareness, sort of not quite intuitive, but I think before it was like, it's almost like the self-awareness would only come through interrogation after the event with my wife, with a therapist, or in discussion with a friend, or whatever it was. Might be 3-4 months down the line, 2 weeks down the line, next day, whatever it is. Whereas now the self-awareness sort of kicks in a little bit, where you just notice little reactions, physical reactions, nervous system reactions, or whatever it might be, and it's quite encouraging, because that, I think, creates a bit of a feedback loop internally once you get some positive reinforcement from the fact that you've just noticed that, oh, hang on, that wasn't that fun, or even the positive, right? Reinforcing the positives, that actually that felt good, and you're aware that that felt good. You sort of give yourself a bit of a reward that was a positive feeling, as much as you do when you see something felt negative, that you can interrogate that. And as we talked about, having some agency in the situation, that whilst you might not necessarily be able to control all of it, you do have the ability to control your reaction to some of it. And that can be again quite empowering, just to know that certain situations that probably would have got the better of me, to the extent that you kind of go down a rabbit hole of angst or fear or frustration or anger or whatever it might be, now become just, as you said, moments. And the accumulation of 6 moments or 7 moments or 8 moments, whatever it might be, does not overcome you. It's just, a sequence, and you can get a perspective and move on.
Right. So, Will, how do you carry this awareness, or this? It's an awakening that you're going through, and I always say it's not that you've awakened and you stay awakened. It's on a daily basis, moment to moment. We're constantly having different triggers, different challenges, different moments, which gives us opportunity for us to recognize this awakening that we're going through. With it's work in progress. How do you carry this into your corporate environment? You're a managing director, you've got people reporting to you, you're sitting in a position of authority and power. How do you carry something so potent? Because this awakening is a very potent energy. It creates in you an acceptance of yourself as a soul. You have tremendous amount of potent power sitting somewhere, which you can tap into. And because it's all in the realm of energy, there's no definition or boundary. It's just something you create and you tap into. And as you just said, that this is kind of a new world for you in certain ways. It's something you're exploring now. How does this impact or maybe influence your corporate world, if I may use a very cliche terminology?
I think probably one key area that, and it's hard again to get perspective on this, but certainly feels like it's something that's shifted, is just being a bit more, bringing a bit more of my personality, myself into my corporate persona, and what makes me effective as a leader. So I'd always considered that I'd have to have a corporate persona based on execution and capabilities, and that separate to that, I would need to have myself, which is, your energy and your soul, or whatever else, and your vulnerability and whatever else, good and bad, sits outside of your corporate personality. And I think sort of slowly I'm seeing that doesn't need to be the case. And I still think there's value in keeping some elements separate, but I'm bringing more of my personality and, dare I say it, spirituality, or sort of empathy, or some of the positive traits that I think can come from being vulnerable, into an environment where, so into the corporate world where, a couple of things can happen from that, which is, so from a personal level, obviously being responsible for colleagues, I found it quite rewarding where I've seen challenges, so personal challenges, colleagues who've had situations where they need support, and I've been feeling capable of offering support in a genuine way, sharing my experiences, that I think has been, quite impactful. And certainly coming from a position of, of leadership where they're probably not expecting me to be vulnerable in that framework, probably gives them a lot of confidence that actually, they've, whatever challenges they're having, anxiety or fear or whatever it might be, burnout, is that, they can take some comfort that they're, in a safe place, and that some of the stuff that my firm professes to in terms of mental health and all that sort of stuff, relies on the strength of the individuals to reinforce the messaging and live the policies that we have. I think the policies are very, very good, and that's not just me saying it as a good corporate citizen. I think it's first class, but it does rely on individuals to be champions of those policies, and you can't be a champion without having some shared experience. So that's one thing. But I also think, when it's come to like challenging situations, part of my job is to think about how we structure a team to deliver the best results for our clients. And some of that relies on intuition and looking at, how to put individuals together into teams, how to motivate individuals within teams, and how to structure, structure an engagement with a client to get the best out of stuff. And actually, I've seen that obviously there's a lot of it to do with the technical resources and the training I've had and bits that are specific to the deliverables. But then there's also a huge human element to it, which is, you've got two colleagues who potentially aren't, seeing eye to eye. How do you deal with that? And, I've really seen the benefit of making compromises, me personally, making compromises or urging individuals to make compromise. So rather than thinking always about what needs to be done, thinking about how stuff needs to get done as well. So if your objective is to deliver a high functioning engagement at this side, there's a path which is the path of least resistance, which just gets you there straight away, but you annoy 20 people along the way and everyone falls out. And then there's a slightly longer path, which takes a bit more effort, a bit more conversation, a bit more dialogue, a bit more whatever it might be. When you get to the end, what you actually have is something that sticks, not because, people are being told that's how it's going to be, but because they got there on their own, or, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So I've seen the benefits of, I guess, maybe it's to do with, understanding, being empathetic or having empathy towards different people's perspectives. I think, long story short, what I have really seen, and this is a slight frustration for me, that my company's current corporate motto, right, is called the power of perspective. And I actually really like it.
Me
because, the biggest challenge I can see in my team is when someone's fighting for their piece and someone's fighting for their piece. They're both trying to achieve the same thing, but they don't understand each other's perspectives. It might be language, it might be culture, it might be just different upbringing. And that's true for how we sell to our clients, and that's true for how we deal with colleagues. And I think, some of the stuff that I've been learning about myself over the past 18 months has really opened my sort of enhance my potential when it comes to how to, maneuver people around different perspectives. And it's a really effective, certainly from a personal perspective, I can see that it's having a good impact on individuals, and therefore, as the good impact on individuals rolls up into a team, it's having a good impact on the culture of the team. And this is from my view, sitting in a privileged position as a team leader. I would be interested to ask the same of, someone who's just starting their career in our team. But certainly that's where I think, never underestimating someone's personal perspective has been.
If I may say this, because you're talking about the power of perspectives, and one of the things as a spiritual consciousness facilitator, and in the realm of the work that we do, one of the most important thing is the truth itself is perspective, because your truth could be different from the other person's truth. So when you were saying that each person has a piece to say, and interestingly, we're sitting in a part of the world where we have people from different nationalities, different backgrounds, with different socio-cultural backgrounds, religious backgrounds, every kind of difference that one can think of, and they're all working together. So in the process, a very simple thing like language, if your first language is different from the language that you're speaking, you might say something where your perception is different from the other. So when a company has a motto like power of perspectives, and a managing director of that, I'm quite sure that with the empathy that you're bringing into your space, into the role that you have, there's a certain element of holding space for another. A person who's going through an evolution, or let's say a person who's very young in your organization, or anywhere. I mean, it doesn't have to be your organization, anywhere in the corporate structure, when someone starts their journey, the fresh interns or the guys who are getting in their first jobs, there's a certain perspective they're bringing in. And you and I both know that perspective will change over the years with their own experiences, the maturity that they go through. But if someone in a leadership space can bring in that broadness, if I may say so, or that ability to be accepting of differences and trying to mesh the differences and creating a very colorful fabric. What you just said, you can reach direct, or you can take a slightly convoluted track, but then there is a certain ownership, there's a certain engagement, and I think everybody in the process therefore learns and evolves. So it becomes enriching for everyone. And that's where perspectives and being open to your own perspectives, the fact that someone else may have another, and as we say, it's your truth and my truth, and there'll always be a third truth, because that's a point of view, it's an opinion or a perspective. So an organization that has that itself, there's so much of spiritual layering to this, it's the motto of your organization. Am I right, Will?
Yeah, I think it's sort of a corporate. We release a new sort of corporate strategy every year or maybe every 2 years, and it usually has a sort of a summary tagline. I think we had one that was the art of the possible, or that sort of stuff, and the recent one was power of perspective. But it was quite interesting, without wanting to blow my own trumpet, but in a meeting that I delivered for my team in January of 2023, before we'd released our corporate motto at the end of 2023, one of the key messages I took to the team was always try and get the other person's perspective, because I saw it as a really meaningful way of dealing with conflict, which is, before you react to that email that comes in or react to a certain situation, just have a little think about what that person's going through. Take 5 minutes to think about the stresses and strains they might have, or the challenges they might have, or even, why are they writing to you in that way before you respond. And in most cases, you'll write a different response. You won't react, you won't defend. So I think in terms of my own personal journey, I think some of that has always been, I'd like to think, part of my upbringing with my parents, certainly from my mother, that was always, something that I valued as a personal trait. But I think, the sort of the work I've been doing and sort of inquisitiveness of which I've been approaching challenges I've had personally have sort of furthered that and made it actually no longer a sort of passive trait that I think is something natural to me. Actually, it's a tool, and I should nurture it and look to deploy it, you know, and well, I don't want to preach, but it's, you know, it's an interesting point where you can coach younger colleagues, coach senior colleagues, even talk to family members. You know, it's just one of those situations where you can stay curious to other people's views on stuff, and it usually has positive outcomes, you know.